Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. In this episode, we're going to discuss some of the possible defenses that Canduss has used. And I've got to say I'm a little bit reluctant to do this just because the transcript apparently is, we can't see the original discussion. So it's something that has been transcripted in black and white, and I'll put a link to Unmasked's channel, and you can actually click on the moment that this starts coming up. But the point I want to stress is that it's now third-hand information. I do think it does sound like the sort of thing Canduss would say, and even if it isn't what Canduss said, I think that these are defenses worth going into. But just bear in mind that when the source is another true crime channel, and you're not hearing Canduss's voice and it's not from a news source, one's got to be certainly a little bit careful and a little bit circumspect. Of course, this was the channel that spoke to Alison Harris, and so I think that does count for something. Does that make sense? Before we get to this episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment. Thank you to all of those who have subscribed since the last episode. And let's get started. So, Unmasked sent Canduss, apparently by Facebook, a couple of interview questions, kind of a Q&A, and one of them was that one of the statements that Canduss made was that her mother was with him at the swimming hole. And I think that's really interesting because if this is true, if this is credible, then you have a situation here where Canduss is already using her own mother as kind of an alibi. In other words, nothing happened to Summer while we were at the swimming hole. Nothing untoward happened with MacBeth when we were at the swimming hole. We didn't do anything wrong and my mother can vouch for us, kind of thing. Something else that I think is just worth highlighting, someone actually mentioned it earlier and I thought it was a really good point, is that Canduss is named after her mother. I live in I'm part of a family where my brother, I'm the middle child, my eldest brother is named after my father. And there's definitely a sense of something when a child has the name of one of their parents. There's definitely a sense of solidarity or whatever you want to call it. And it comes out, it's born out in a particular way. And so isn't that born out this way? Right now, this sibling of mine who has my father's name is actually living with my father. And you have the same thing with Canduss. Her mother is living with her. So mother is in a way caught between a rock and a hard place, even if she wants to, does she have freedom of choice to say what really happened, given that she's under the sort of, to some extent, control of Canduss. If she doesn't play by the playbook, then will she still have a place to live? I don't think it's very difficult to verify Canduss's statement because all you do is you go to the hospital and find out when Canduss Sr. checked out. I don't know how hard that would be to verify. The other thing that I think one could look at is MacBeth. You could ask MacBeth, okay, what was the situation? And I don't know to what extent there's a sense of conspiracy between MacBeth and Canduss. Now, I don't mean conspiracy in the typical meaning of the word, like a, conspiracy theory. I mean where you conspire amongst one another to keep secrets. And we've also heard that Canduss called MacBeth basically to cross-check his statements on her way to being polygraphed. That does suggest that she certainly is interested in conspiring. You can go to the Unmasked video and check some of the other comments, but where Canduss was asked, something about Summer going under the water and being under the water for a minute, asked her to respond. Well, there was no response, and eventually when she did respond, she said, "It's all lies," but not seemingly willing to provide much detail on that. And that brings us to another really important aspect. So the one aspect sort of potentially exonerates MacBeth and Canduss in terms of what they were doing together at the swimming hole, right? But the second aspect is far more, I think, pertinent. It is Summer herself. What state was she in, regardless of what happened at the swimming hole? Had something already gone wrong on the way back to dropping off MacBeth? Now, I can't remember where I heard the original story, but the story I heard was that something had happened to Summer, this partial drowning or being under the water, and because of that, they'd actually ended the day prematurely. I can't remember if it was that and the combination of this kid being either upset by it or to some extent intoxicated, but the sense I got was that the afternoon ended prematurely, right? Now, it might not seem that way. It may not seem, if you go and pick someone up at 10 o'clock and you bring them back at 2, that's premature, but I think it is. In the sense of, if you're going to, spend time at the water and, over lunch, then some of the best time is until possibly 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Being back by 2 o'clock is fairly premature in that sense. Do you agree? On the other hand, if you've got a 5-year-old, then one can also imagine that it's going to be difficult. I think that's quite an important part to bear in mind, is if you've got a 5-year-old with you, they're going to have certain needs. They might be bored. They might be, play with me, feed me, being stung by the bugs or whatever kind of thing. So however long adults might want to be in that situation, a child may have different needs. And so what are you going to do about them? And also, not only different needs, but what happens if something happens? What if your child stubs her toe or gets lost or falls, or something happens that you don't want to happen? How can one keep a guard over that, keep a control over that, keep custody over that, minimize that from happening when you want to do what you want to do? Someone also left a really good comment, a really astute comment, saying that Canduss herself may not know what happened if she was intoxicated. She may not be very clear on exactly what is going on because she herself was intoxicated. That's a really good point. She may be confused about exactly what happened, right? I don't know if I subscribe to that completely, just because she certainly wasn't. She was able to drive, right? She was able to drive back home. So on the question of Summer being awake when MacBeth was dropped off, I think that is very important for Canduss to say. In other words, that we are innocent. We didn't do anything wrong. We were looking after Summer. Summer was happy. Everything was fine. But was it? And so now you have a situation where MacBeth and the grandma, Canduss's mother, they would be in a position to say, well, is that true or not, right? And one wonders what they would say, because what if Summer wasn't awake? And what we know for a fact is, or what we certainly know for certain based on what Alison said, was that Summer wasn't awake. Not only was she not awake, she wasn't ambulant. She wasn't running around like she normally did. And she wanted to reach out to Summer, and I think her mother did something like roll down the window a little bit, but Alison wanted to touch Summer, but she couldn't. And then Canduss wanted to hurry off. And I think that speaks volumes. And I think what that also speaks about is the possibility, the potentiality, the probability that at this point something had already happened to Summer and Canduss knew about it. And if that is true, then Canduss should not have driven home. Canduss should have driven to the medical center. She'd just been there, so why not just go back there? Now, you could argue and say, well, no, Summer was just sleeping. But if Summer was just sleeping, then why would Canduss sort of prevent Alison from sort of getting close to her? And I think it's quite a simple scenario, but quite a simple one to explain. Is if Alison, if Canduss didn't want Alison to wake Summer up, then I'm sure she just would have said that. There wouldn't have been this unspoken tension of, trying to get to Summer but not being able to, not being allowed to. And of course we've dealt with the last photo that a lot in that last photo doesn't look right. The way the seatbelt is around Summer, just around her waist, the way that she's sort of propped up, the way that, why is Summer sleeping against a cold milk jug? It can't be comfortable. It can't be pleasant. All of which raises this possibility, is she sleeping? And if she's not sleeping, what's going on? Is she even alive at this point? And what I think Canduss was trying to do through her mother, so her mother was sort of acting on her behalf, was she was trying to take a video making Summer appear as if she was okay, except that's the opposite of how it did appear. So the whole point of the video was to try and show that Summer was okay when she wasn't, and so the video actually showed that better, that something was wrong. And I think the mere fact that this video got released shows a sense of lingering confusion and something that was going on where Canduss wasn't completely in control of herself and in control of what was going on, even of her own mind. She had a fuzzy idea of what she was trying to do, but she was unable to do it. I want to thank Connie for bringing this to my attention. Thanks a lot for that, Connie, on Patreon. I've also been trying to get hold of the original of what I call the new last photo, but so far people haven't been able to find it. I haven't been able to find it. I think it's been scrubbed off Canduss's Facebook, but it's supposedly more recent footage of Summer than the last photo. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.